you very much. And thank you all for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. Katie, I appreciate you reaching out and dialing me into this. This is a great opportunity for us. So to kind of move into it in the spirit of time, I'm John O'Connell. I'm one of the founders and owners of the Growler Station. The Growler Station sometimes is a generic term that's out there and says, oh, let's put a Growler Station in. Our company is actually the Growler Station. We started, do I got to point this at something? I was going to say, do I do something, spin around, and the arrow button, right? Those guys sabotage me, those hard seltzer people. So what button?
Point it over in my
Okay, and what button do I hit?
That's forward and that's backwards.
Oh, forward, okay. All right, sorry about that. We're back on track here. Those hard seltzer people. So we are the Growler Station. So we've been around for about 8 years. We started in a standalone store in New York City. We quickly realized that standalone, just to go beer to go, wasn't the way to go. That's all we offered and was strictly to go, even in the New York City market. During that process of us being open, we actually were approached by a C-store operator in Charlottesville, Virginia, that wanted to put a Growler Station inside of their store. So similar to like some of you folks have store-in-store concepts, whether it's a Subway or the Carl Jr.'s or whatever. We actually built a store-in-store concept with them in Charlottesville, and quickly we realized that we're onto something. Their beer sales went through the roof. They were making really fat margins in the beer category, which is normally, as you guys know, 18 to 20% in package. They were getting about 40% margins on their beer, the craft beer, through the Growler Station. So we quickly formed a company and said, all right, listen, we got to start kind of redirecting and looking at store-in-store concepts, and that's what we did. Not to go through the whole rigmarole, but we have stores all across the country and in Canada to the tune of 550 locations. Majority of those are the store-in-store concepts, and the majority of those are in the C-store channel. With that, we built a network of installers and tech and maintenance people. So when we install the thing, we can ensure that it's installed properly, maintained, and serviced properly. In the draft beer business, that kind of becomes one of a hot button issues, is the product and the equipment can't be maintained and serviced properly, and everybody points fingers, where our company, it's a one-stop shop, so we take that all under our roof, and we handle that all for you, so we take it off your plate, so to speak. And then YS, it's a one-stop shop, so we help you with the design and the layout of the Growler Station. Our equipment is state-of-the-art, and I'll talk to it in a little bit. It's a differentiator from the Me Too operators. Those Me Too operators are the folks that just kind of do the growlers off the taps. They put the growler up against the tap and pull the handle, and I'll explain why that's a little wishy-washy. But so it's a good way to differentiate yourselves from those folks. Like I said, we're a one-stop shop. We do everything for you. We handle the equipment, the menus. We have a digital menu system that we'll talk about. We handle the install and the maintenance for you. And with that, you even as a one store will be able to take advantage of our buying power of the 550 plus locations that we have. So even as a single store, we have some partners that have 40, some partners have 30 locations. As a single store, you will buy your glass growlers or equipment at the same price that they would, just because we're able to leverage our buying power and pass that those savings onto our single store operators, or one or two store operators. And that's as a result of the locations we have. And so the one thing is, people say, well, what the heck is a growler? Does anybody not know what a growler is? So everybody does know what a growler is. So I won't have to get into that and the history of it and all that good stuff. But they basically are two sizes. You have a 64, which is probably the most popular growler out there. And then you have a 32-ounce growler, which people name growlitas and growler, whatever, and they name a whole bunch of stuff. But the growlers are just, basically it's in a glass vessel. We do now have introduced a PET vessel that is also 64 ounces and in amber color, as well as the 32-ounce. So the other thing that's becoming, I spoke to some gentleman earlier today, that's becoming a real hot button item is the Crowler. The Crowler was brought to market by the Oscar Blues organization, which is a craft beer organization. They've now separated and they call themselves Crowler Nation. They've actually approached us, and we've now partnered with them to take the Crowler and lend them lend our experience in the field and bringing that really to the market. The Growler is basically, it's a 32-ounce can, and we've since introduced a 24 and a 16-ounce cans because of the popularity of the Growler. It's filled, the beer is poured into the thing. You can do it with our system, which I'll explain. Put into the 32-ounce can, put into the seamer. This is basically a modified soup can seamer. Put it into the seamer, you push a button, it spins around, and it seals the can, and it's ready to go. So you can the product right on premise. Again, you're making that draft margin and putting it into a packaged product. Why us versus them? Again, we help out with the layout and design of your store and store, your Growler station. We get involved right from the onset. You don't have to pay us for it. That's part of the deal with working with us. If you go outside, of course, you got to pay architects and design folks to handle that for you. Our equipment is state of the art. So what it is, and again, we'll talk about it. These are auto fillers. You basically just have to load in for a C-store. We've been waiting for this thing to hit the market. We had some issues when we first came out with it. We fine-tuned those and are ready to go. And we've been in the market with this for about 18 months now and have had minimal issues at all. And the issues that are created are their user issues, not even the equipment. You just place the Growler in here, you push a couple buttons, and it actually fills it. And so it gives your associates time to start that Growler, walk away, handle something else within the store, for that customer, and then come back to the Growler and pull it out and cap it and get it ready to go. The other things we touched on, the buying power and the 500 plus locations that give us that ability to leverage that buying power. So this is the difference where we come to with other people that are out there, and you may have seen the stores, the Growler stores that are out there that pour the beer off the tap. This system here is our smart tap. It basically ties right into the kegs of beer. You also do have some taps that will go along in those kegerators, and that's purely for sampling purposes for your customers, because if they're going to spend $15 to $20 for a Growler, they usually would like to taste the beer. And the craft beer folks, they're the people that also like to make sure that if the IPA that they're choosing is an IPA that is similar to the taste that they're used to. But basically, you just load the Growler in here. You select your beer here with these knobs. You close it, because obviously we don't have power here. And then you just select the size. So there's 32 and 64-ounce size buttons. You select your size, and that starts the process and that process is what the differentiator is. We create a seal here, and when that seal is created, we pump CO2 into the Growler. So the process that we're using is the same process that a bottling line would use in a brewery. When you pull that tap handle and put your Growler up to that tap and you're pouring the beer into it, you're exposing that beer to oxygen. When beer hits oxygen, it starts breaking down the integrity and quality of the beer almost immediately. Think of yourself sitting at a bar drinking a pint of beer. By the time that pint gets down to the end, it's kind of flat and it doesn't taste the same way as that first couple pulls off the beer. That's because of the exposure to oxygen. The same thing happens when you're pulling it off the faucet so you're changing the integrity and quality of the beer. So if the person tasted the beer at your store, they said, I'll take a Growler of that IPA, they get home, they sit on it for a day, they drink it, it will taste different than when they had it at the store. And the first thing they're going to do is come to you and say, whoa, my Growler's flat, my Growler's doesn't taste the same. With this operation, you do get that same taste, you do get that same quality and the integrity of the craft beer. Because that's the craft beer purists, they are not the Coors Light guy or the Bud Light guy, and they want to make sure that they're tasting something that's almost like a wine for them. So when you do that, you pump the CO2 in, it moves all that oxygen out of the bottle. CO2 is heavier than oxygen, so that's the process. Then it starts delivering the liquid into the bottle, down the side of the bottle, and fills it from the bottom up. So any O2 that is in the bottle actually gets pushed out by the CO2 getting pushed up in the bottle. Then once you cap it, that bottle would be good if you left it in the refrigerator capped for up to 60 to 90 days. The shelf life for the regular beer off the faucet is about 36 hours at best. The other thing for the operators, so you're giving your customer a good experience with this technology. You're differentiating yourselves from the Me Too operators that are out there in your town or even in the other establishments throughout your town. And you're giving and you're showcasing the product to your consumers. And there's a wow factor. The thing lights up and it's cool and people think it's neat. For the operator, this is the kicker. When you're pouring it off the faucet, I don't care what what people say, what they do, or how you do it, you're going to realize between 20 and 30% waste. A lot of it is operator error. A lot of it is just because of the way that beer comes out. Once that beer hits that bottle and starts rolling into the bottle off the faucet, it starts foaming. If you go to any location out there and they're pouring it off the tap, just watch what they're doing. Unless they slow that beer way, way down, they're going to actually see a lot of foam. 20 to 30% of a craft beer is real money. 20 to 30% of a Bud Light on tap isn't so bad, but when you're buying a keg, a Sixtel at $200, that money adds up real fast. With our system, you're going to get less than 2% waste. And again, we took all of the operator error as much as possible out of it with the Craft Tap Smart. You load it in, you push the buttons, it gets going. It says end, and that means it's over, and you pull it out and you cap it, and you're good to go. So that is how we different on the growler. And plus, when we're installing, we make sure we install this system into your location so it's done and it's done right. A lot of people will just, do a growler station or whatever and have, Bob's friend put in the refrigerator, Sue's friend put in the taps, and then next thing you know, Bob and Sue haven't talked, and it really becomes somewhat of a disaster out there on how to fix it, and there's foaming issues and temperature issues. Where you get us, we're a one-stop shop. We do it all for you from start to finish. And we just don't do it and leave. So that's the important thing. Shake your hands and spin you around 3 times and push you off on your training wheel and say, hey, good luck. We stay with you. So this is what I just talked about, the waste savings. So you go through it and you can see less than 2% as opposed to 25 to 30% on your waste. So that's going from 31 growlers off of a keg of beer down to 21 with the regular tap. It's a significant number, especially at those prices that you're paying for those craft beers. People just don't, just a little foam, no big deal. It adds up, believe me. Because more than not, when people kind of cut the corners and they just put the regular taps in after talking to us, their distributor will tell them, no, regular taps are fine. Well, the distributor's telling them regular taps are fine because the distributor sells more beer the more beer you waste. That's why the distributor will say, don't worry about it, or I'll put it in for you for free, or we'll get a deal for you. Well, the get a deal part is if it's an 8-tap system, the distributor's going to end up saying, well, plus I'll do it for free, but I get 4 of those tap handles. When we do it, you own all the tap handles. You can put whatever beer you want on it, and any issues we'll take care of, and we can ensure that you guys are maximizing your bottom line when doing so. The oxygen purge from the bottle, so that you can't do that with obviously with the taps. We talked about that, the way that we can do that. I gotta get over here. My eyes are bad. All the different size growlers, of course, both can do that. The other thing we can do is the pre-sale, is the pre-fill. So let's just say you're in an area and you can actually, in your business, you're going to be slammed with growlers from 5 to 8 on a Friday. So what you could do is, because of the way we fill our beers, you could actually pre-fill, even on Thursday, load those things into a grab-and-go case. So when Friday comes, those people can just walk in, grab their growler, and walk out. You get that quick sale. They don't have to sit there and wait. Sometimes you want them to wait, so they fish around the store to build their basket a little bit. But some people are just in a rush. They just want to come in and grab it. It gives you the ability to do that, to pre-fill, put it in a grab-and-go case. And that beer, like I said, is good for 60 to 90 days. And it's 60 to 90 because of the complexity of the beer that you're filling. It's 60, and so that gives you the ability to pre-fill for those grab-and-go instances with your customers. And obviously the customer experience is much better. It is cool, but you're giving your customers a much better product. And at the end of the day, you want your customers to be at home saying, wow, I got this at Nisqually Market and it was awesome. And people, even they'll start talking about, yeah, you got to go down there and check it out. It's got this cool system. And it actually just by word of mouth, it builds some business in that respect. Our 3.0 model is similar to this. It just doesn't have the auto features. Obviously, this is a premium filler for the C-stores. We actually really try to push folks to this model because of the lack of labor that may be in those stores, and being able to kind of multitask where you can fill the growler, get it going, and cash the people out, and and finish whatever basket, whatever other products they might be buying in your store. So it gives you that ability. When you do the 3.0, it's a manual operated. It's a little less expensive. It's manually operated. You load the growler in the same way. You start the thing with a flow meter that's on, or flow control that's on the side, and you just have to watch it. It doesn't stop automatically. So you got to make sure when it's full, you go in there and you stop it. Otherwise, it's just going to go regurgitate back into our drain line and back out into a spill bucket. We build all the growler and crawler stations in-house. We have our assembly facility is in Pennsylvania. So what we do is we work with you what's going to be the best option for your location. And we sit there and we go through all the pros and cons. Some people say more is better. We're believers in that it really isn't. To give you an idea why we believe that way is craft beer, they're styles, right? There's a porter, there's an IPA, there's a Pilsner, there's a lager, there's a this, there's a that. Those folks are loyal to the styles. They're not loyal to a brand, craft beer, to a brand, so to speak. So I'm not like a Lagunitas IPA guy. I got to have Lagunitas IPA. I'm an IPA guy. So I go into a growler, and I go into a store that's doing a growler station. I say, hey, what do you have for IPAs? Well, we got Lagunitas. Awesome. I'll take one, fill it, bang, go home. I come in the following week. I don't look for that Lagunitas IPA. My same question is, what do you have new for IPAs? So the more you have kind of doesn't get you that ability to have those people keep coming back, because you want turnover in your kegs so people can come back, and also it lessens your waste out there. If you have a bunch of tap heads, 16, and we've had people say, no, we're doing 24. They call us in 6 months later and say, hey, we're going to knock that 24 down to 12. It's because they end up, you can't serve that much beer, because it's a lot of beer to be pumping out of a to-go store. More is better in an on-premise location because they have the seat, they have the activity of people sitting at the bars and drinking all day long. You don't see that in a store that's a grab-and-go store. So we try to get you down. The sweet spot we have found is 6 to 8 beers. Gives you good turnover, gives you good variety, and it also, like I said, it minimizes your waste, and it maximizes your bottom line just because of those turnovers. And what we do is we build everything to about 90%. So you see everything on top of that refrigerator deck. That's a self-contained refrigerator box. We have multiple sizes depending on how many lines we have. All the kegs go into the belly of that. We put all of our equipment on top. We ship that refrigerator to you about 90% built. Our guy comes in and he finishes the build to 100%, makes sure everything is up and operational, and then we start a training process with you folks right on site to make sure your employees and your managers are comfortable with the operation. We go through everything top to bottom with you. And like I said, we build it. We don't farm it out. We build it at our facility in Pennsylvania to ensure that it is built the correct way. As I said before, because of people kind of, when they just don't have the budget to upgrade into something like this or even our 3.0, and they kind of look at the crawler as more of the opportunity. They're not into the growlers, and for whatever reason, it's budgets or what they've heard in the street. We actually build our crawler stations as well. So we utilize a tubing system that goes into the bottom. We have flow controls. It's not a regular tap. Those taps have flow controls on them. So when you pull that tap up, you can slow down that pour of beer to minimize any foaming. You're going to realize foaming, but we do it in a way that it actually minimizes as much as possible. They're just not free-flowing taps. And it gives you the ability to tie in the crawlers and do growlers as well. We do full millwork and island kiosks. We've done several of these. The biggest one in your channel would be Come and Go out in the Midwest. So it's a full floating kiosk. It lands right in the middle of your store if you have the real estate. Our smallest one, our C-store model, is about 7 feet by 10 feet. We come in, we make sure that footprint is clean. We come in with our millwork folks. We build out the whole thing for you, and we could do that in about 2 days. Those things, the 7 foot by 10, all in with your beer, it's about $35,000. But like I said, all you need to do is drop the electric where we need it to go, and we just need that thing to be a clean slate when we come in to do it. And all the millwork, we have different laminates and all that good stuff. And these designs everything we do is custom. Every growler station we have done to date has been custom, except if when we're in a store that's got a multi-unit chain and they want the same look, then that's a little different. But every C-store that we've done in grocery store, especially liquor store, has been a custom build for us. Those are some of our builds that are out there. The one that is dead center is actually a C-store in the Midwest called Fast Eddie's. And this guy has actually brought, it's incredible the amount of business that he does. I think he's got 24 lines. He proved us wrong. He's the only guy out there that actually did. But he has a full-time body on that growler station 6 days a week. And he does, he has an on-premise license, so they do have a couple beers there. He's got a bar set up there. And it's a C-store, it's a gas station, it's a car wash, it's the whole thing. But he has actually done it, and it's all about the marketing piece for him. And those are our other C-stores that you see there, a couple of them, just to give you an idea of the customization that we can do for your location. No store is small enough, and certainly no store is big enough for us to get involved in. If you say, well, I don't have the space, talk to us. Because we know that real estate is very expensive in the C-store, space, but it's real estate, and we get it, and there's got to be $1 per square foot that's got to be made. We work with you on where it could go and what could be possibly shifted around, just based on our experience. We defer to you and say, hey, what do you think about this? We put it behind the cash, station, and we just move the cigarette this, and all I need is, 59 inches. And next thing you know, you went from no way, it's not going to happen, to holy cow, it actually can fit. We can do all that for you, and just work with us and talk to us. If you have interest, you want to get into the business, then we'll work with you to make that happen in your location. The other thing that's important, not the equipment gives you that differentiator from those Me Too operators out there. But one of the things that we've done is we don't just sell the equipment and walk away, pat you on the back and say, hey, good luck to you. Hope it all works out. Thanks for the check. It's awesome. We want you to stay open, because what that does for us is that helps us also leverage what we're doing in the marketplace. We don't just, there's a lot of equipment. We say that we're, a solutions provider, not an equipment supplier, because we're going in there saying, okay, this is real money. It's not, you've worked hard for this, and you're going to spend it, and we want to make sure it's successful for you. So we've developed several marketing plans to do that, and we kind of can target your area. We're all about the social media stuff. We do geo-targeting with that with you guys. We go through that. We help you get those folks, and again, I'm not in your business to an extent that you are, but we know one of the things that has hurt the C-store operators are those, being able to put their credit cards in the machine, and just cash out right at the pump, or in the lack of cigarette sales, that's declining, and vape never take it off like the way it has. So those folks aren't normally coming in from the pump into the store. They're just getting their gas and going. How do we do that? You can't advertise beer at the pump, but what we can advertise is a crowler or a growler. It's a generic term. So we've worked with folks how to advertise a growler or a crowler at the pump to pique their interest and say, whoa, wait a second. This store Nisqually's now doing, well, they're probably a little different case, but the C-store is now doing growlers. I got to go check it out. Now you got them, and then you kind of, and we help you with that, those pieces of marketing material. And the point of purchase, we help you enhance those things. We have, little things that we do. We have bottlenecks that will, tell you to download our app, our Beer Wizard app, which we'll talk to in the next slide. And how the folks, you can stay in touch with those customers when they're not in your location. So when you're putting a new beer on tap, you say, hey, we're going from Lagunitas IPA to a Green Flash IPA, and it pumps it out to all the folks that downloaded the app and picked your store as one of their favorite stores, and it pops up on their phone saying, hey, the Squally Markets just put on a Green Flash IPA. Well, let's head over there and check it out. And so we help you go out and talk to those customers when they're not in your locations. Again, the big thing is the competitive advantage, is how when you do this, again, this will be in the conversations we have with those parties that are interested in doing a growler station or just want to kind of test the waters and see what it's all about. Local. You can't sell enough of local craft beer. That's what we tell people. Ingratiate yourselves with those local breweries. They'll push people to your location through their websites and social media. I'm smart enough to know where I'm not smart enough. Social media is not my forte. My kids can, spin me around 3 times and I still don't know what the heck I'm talking about. But we have guys in our company that are very good at it and are very good working with your folks and how to maximize our social media marketing tools to get those customers and talk to them not only when they're in location, but when they're out of your location to drive them back into your stores. Social media and the craft business are kind of synonymous. It's amazing. Then the people that utilize, I spoke about Fast Eddie's earlier. He uses social media like no one else in our system, and he has people in there almost 24/7 getting growlers. We have the tools for you. We work with you to get those tools in place and how to maximize the use of those tools, and we're always there for you to say, hey, can we try something different? And we'll be there to work with you to try something different. So use us based on our experience to help you market your growler station customers. Again, talking to custom signage, we can do all that for you. Digital marketing, we do all that with you guys side by side, taking your brand, taking our brand, and Nisqually Markets powered by Growler Station, or Nisqually Markets Growler Corner, whatever they want to call it. You guys can call it. We'll help you integrate that branding into our messaging and get it out there for you. We want you to be successful. The other piece is our digital menu system. So we don't third party, it's not Untapped, it's not Beer Menu. We built a digital menu system to help you sell product to your customers. We're not those folks that are out there trying to do land grabs, they call them, when they try to just get as much people signed up for their app as possible and then sell it down the road to Google. Maybe I should be that guy, but I'm not. We've taken what the customers want and how they want to market, and those customers are your customers. What are they looking for? So what they're looking for, we have things in there that if they come into your store and they have the app and Lagunitas IPA is on tap, they can go on there and say, I'm having steak tonight. What goes with steak at the Nisqually Markets? They hit steak, and it'll tell you right on the app what beer in that store, and we can add the canned product as well, packaged product as well, what goes with steak, so they can go right to that. We're guys. The last thing guys do are like to ask questions. We don't ask for directions, and we don't ask questions when we're in a store. We just sit there and say, all right, I'm going to go get this. So it helps that, even on the female side, which the female segment is starting to become a huge segment in craft beer. It really is. They'll be kind of, customers will be sitting there going, I don't know, there's so much decisions to make here. I don't know does an IPA do this? It gives you the ability to go right on that app, check it out, and see what you're buying and what kind of is within your taste profiles, what you like. And it gives you all of that ability. We have over 20,000 beers in our database. So any beer that you'd be putting on is probably in our database. If it's not, we have the ability to put it on within 24 hours, but you can even put it on right away. There's branding opportunities and advertising opportunities. Along the bottom of that menu system, you can put some local advertising or branding or whatever you'd like to do. Everything is built. There's several different templates you can use. And also, it gives you the ability to, on your website, put the beer menu. We just tie all that in for your customers to be able to go onto that website and see what you have at any given time. And again, it's a mobile app, so it can go on all digital, Android, iPhone, all that stuff. It's got the ability to do that. And we can even put an iPad right in the store that the customers can go up and kind of play around with and see a little bit about those beers that you guys have available in your stores. All that stuff is done, again, by us, through us. So now the big question is, well, this is great, John, but what am I into? It all depends on what you want to do. So if you want to do, for a growler station, we can probably start in the $8,000 range, and it goes up to, we built one in $45,000 or $50,000 for a large format store. Our PM program, which is a fail-safe, it takes all the worry off your hands. We come in every other month. We break these systems down, bring it back to life. So, again, these are just, those are around $249. Growler steamers, they start at about $2,500. But we work with you guys on what you're looking to do and to minimize the exposure from a budget standpoint. We understand CapEx and that stuff, and we just we'll help you through that process. We work with you if you say, I'm still a little nervous about it. We'll work with you and show you an ROI calculator. So we say, all right, let's say you guys do 100 growlers a week. We plug that into our calculator, and it will give you an idea of when your ROI is, and what your profit make will be at the end of, roughly at the end of every month. So then you have kind of a benchmark of what you try to go after. Again, we try to work with you guys to make you feel comfortable and get into it. And again, we work with you from the beginning to the end, to the install, and we're there after. We have techs all over the country, so no matter where you are, we'll have a guy or a gal in there to handle install, maintenance, and service. It really is, we have learned a lot in the business, what works, what doesn't work, and we're not afraid to tell you. That's why I said some people will say to us, no, I want 24 lines. We'll be the first to say, hey, listen, start with 12, and we can build it so we can add another 12 lines if we need to. Just start early, just start low, and let's get the operation under control, marketing and everything, and then we can start moving forward and adding beers if you'd like to. And we'll work with you on that if that's, your goal is to get up to 24 or whatever the case may be. But you'll see, based on our experience, we have different teams within our company that handle that. We'll have a social media person that will be your person. We have our head tech guy that handles all tech issues. So we're not just two guys in a garage throwing these on a refrigerator and sending them out to you. Our main offices are in Southern California. We have offices in Dallas and in Connecticut, out east. So we're here for the long haul. We're here to help you, and we're here to help you guys grow and be successful in a segment that some people are nervous about. That some people think, well, it's peaked, it's gone, growlers, and they've done their thing. It's not. If you do it and you do it right, you're going to be successful. And we give you the tools. Our company give you the tools to do it right and to be successful. What we don't do is we don't hold your hand every day. We say, okay, here it is. You can't put baby in the corner and hope she's going to dance. You got to bring her out on the floor and make her dance. And I'm telling you, it works with the stores we have. Of the 550 locations we have, one chain closed because operationally they couldn't handle it. We've closed less than 20, and it wasn't anything to do with an equipment thing. It was change of ownership. They got out of the business, the beer business or whatever. So we're successful at what we do, and so are our partners that are out there. So with that, I think we're going to have a panel. If you have, do I have time? Does anybody have any questions? We're going to hold the questions. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't know the agenda. So thank you all very much for that quick overview of our company. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sit here.
Yeah, sit here.
I feel like I'm going to fall off this stage.
Testing. Okay, great.
Right.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
So, if you remember in that video for this morning, I made the comment that I've copied something from everyone, from every store. So when I visited the new Nisqually Market store in Frederickson, I noticed the taps. I asked Tony everything about it, asked who the vendor was, and when we built our new store, lo and behold, we have 8 taps. So we're 2 users here. We're not here to sell John's equipment. I think he had a very balanced presentation talking about beer and how his product can bring something new into your store. So good job doing that, John.
Thank you.
But we're here to really talk about the beer category and how draft beer complements our packaged beer, our beer caves, and etc. So this is going to be a little bit of a conversation between Tony and I, and John. You can pipe in here and fill in the blanks as we say. I did make a couple of notes for kind of like an opening statement from my point of view. I told you how I got into it, but I am a beer drinker, and well, actually I drink wine, beer, and spirits. So I'm in all those categories. But I with my buddies, we have a little bit of an informal weekly club. We call it Thirsty Thursdays. We go to the East Side in Olympia, and part of the experience, other than just having guy talk, is looking at the rotation of the craft beers up on the board, and they are different every week. And the folks I'm with, they know craft beer. They talk about craft beer like they would talk about a sports team. They talk about the brewery. They talk about the labels, the history, the trends. Have you heard this new innovative beer? So there really is a well, the craft beer market is a somewhat of a niche market, but we can go into how it complements. So Tony, how did you get into the draft?
I'm a great salesman. That's how I get to it.
Yeah, no, actually, I think we started developing our Fredericton store. It opened in late 2017, but we started developing it and the design of it in 2015. I went to NACS, but before I went to NACS, I used to travel down to Oregon, Astoria, Oregon. There's a couple Shell stations in Oregon that have growler taps in them, and I always thought, man, that's kind of interesting, and I wonder what it takes to get that in the store. But theirs was a very like bar style, I would say. Well, I don't think it was
regular taps, faucets.
Yeah, regular taps. And so I thought there might be a better avenue for it. So in the back of my head, I was like, man, I'd really think that's cool. It'd be innovative. It's something that tribes weren't doing. One thing we always try to do in the Nisqually markets is just try and be a little bit different. If we can be a little bit different than everyone else, I think that helps sets us apart, especially not in the industry, but also our demographic of area that we're in. So I knew there's a following as I live in Puyallup, and that's in South Hill. Puyallup is kind of like the area where it is, and I know I liked getting growlers, and I always had these conversations with Total Wine and Spirits, and they had the growler station setups in there, and I kind of followed them. So I knew who you guys were. I went to NACS that year. I met Tony Lane.
Yep.
I met Tony Lane at NACS, and then he explained to me all about it. And then as we were developing our store, I said, well, this just looks like a real opportunity that was inexpensive to us, cost to separate us and give us some diversification in our beer category, because we knew beer was hot. We wanted to make sure we had a nice walk-in cooler. We wanted to make sure we dedicated, I think it's like 5 doors, maybe 6 doors to beer, just because of the area we're in. It was a blue-collar area. It was half the area. The other half was bedroom community. So we knew we would have a lot of foot traffic, and some of those hardworking demographics, blue-collar, like to drink beer. So it was a great opportunity for us. But we took it one step further. We took the growler station design, and what we did was we have a 12-tap system with 2 of the Pegasus, I think 3.0s in there.
Yeah, you probably did the 3.0s.
And but we built a beer cooler in the back, so we actually take full kegs in the back, and because we wanted to. There's more options for us getting full kegs, and we wanted to build a little bit extra refrigeration room, but it was something for us where we built a specific cooler for kegs, and we just tapped into the wall and tapped into the system and ran over our lines.
So that system, if we do talk, there's the direct draw system, or where the barrels are left in the refrigerated, those systems I showed you, those are direct draw. The kegs are left right underneath, and we just pump it right up top. Long draw, which Tony's referring to, is exactly that. You're drawing it from a distance, and we can go up to 75, 100 feet, but we try to minimize as much as possible. We'll work with you on that. So if you have existing coolers, you don't want on the refrigerator to do that, we can work with you to drive that beer from those existing walk-ins to wherever the taps would be.
I want to speak to that about, so there's 2 kinds of stores, right? There's the store that's being built, and you're trying to figure out your strategic plan on what I'm going to sell and what I'm going to offer. And then there's your existing store, and it's costly to expand. So if you put something in, something is going to go. So our system was a new store, and what I kind of want to like go back, like why we have the beer. It wasn't just for the beer. It's something that I want to echo what Tony said. Is our stores, our tribal stores, are now bigger. Have you noticed that? I mean, our first little store, it was 1,500 square feet maybe. And now our latest store is 6,000 plus square feet. So we coming here, you talk to vendors, if you're going to be in a category, be in it. If you're not going to be in a category, don't be in it. So, for example, I'm just going to talk about wine with the new store. we sell very little wine in our convenience store. We don't know nothing. We don't know anything about it. Most of the wine bottles in these older stores, just shake your head if this sounds familiar. They get dust on them, right? It's not a mover. We're not in it, and the customers who come in don't want to buy overpriced bad wine that's been sitting there a long time. In our new store, we have a whole row of wine, and now we are selling. The distributor loves us. That's all I got to say. They love us. They didn't believe it, but we went in it big, and we were signaling to our customer that we sell wine, and we have a variety of wine at a good price. So it's the same thing with beer. So what we wanted to do, we had a walk-in cooler, we had our beer cave, we had more coolers than we've ever had before, and we thought the image of just, even if you didn't get the craft beer, it sends the message that, hey, these people are all about beer.
Yeah, no, and I give it to, during the design phase of our store, I actually worked with your guys' design team, and the way that we had the store designed was actually kind of a little bit around the beer growler station. We wanted it front and center, right in front of our door. We had the walk-in cooler built behind the wall that the unit sits in front of, so it was just popping through a wall. It's like maybe like a half a foot to where the kegs are, and we had the lines that are underneath.
Right,
redirected to the back side of it. Yeah, so they designed everything for us. It was actually really helpful for us and our design team.
Yeah, that's again, that goes to the thing I was saying before. Based on our first couple stores, we were like chickens without a head. But then now we've actually seen the importance of design and layout, especially in the C store, where you mentioned 6,000 square feet stores. Some stores aren't 6,000 square feet. I'm dealing with the 1,800 square foot store. So we can kind of figure out if you're serious about it, to your point, and you want in the game, and then we'll work with you guys on how to make that, shoehorn that in, or we love new stores. Get us involved early.
You know what I love about when you're up here with the equipment guy, you notice how the conversation goes back to equipment and lines, like right away? I'm just teasing you a little bit, John.
Yeah, that's fine.
But in our designing of our store, want to echo something else that Tony said, is we want it to be different from our competitors, from the non-tribal stores. As you may know, we have good pricing on our fuel. We have good pricing on our tobacco. But those things don't last forever. We are actually competing with other convenience stores across the street. We feel we have to respond to our customer. So what we did in our store was, in addition to the growler station and the beer cave, we offered things like non-ethanol fuel at the pumps, something no one else has. We have a Chinese kitchen inside of our convenience store. And I mention those things because those all add up to being different and a reason why the customer will pull up to your pumps and walk in your store.
And that's a very good. A lot of the larger C stores, and that's the forward thinking that we're seeing out there in the marketplaces. People are differentiating themselves. They're making it a full customer experience within those locations. And I see things like you talk about the sushi. I don't know, it's a sushi bar, things like that. People would never 10 years ago think that there would ever be a sushi bar inside of a C store, and you never would have thought that. If it was packaged and it was sitting in a cooler. Now you got people that are sitting there and they're rolling California rolls right in front of you. And we see that all in those stores. And that helps everything. Selfishly, it helps the growler station because it drives traffic into the store off the pumps.
Right. Good job, John. You mentioned lines once. And
I'm trying.
That was really good. That was really good. So,
trying to be a team player.
So that's the equipment. That's kind of like the hardware. Tony, can you talk about what it means for your staff in terms of what kind of licensing they have, what kind of training about beer?
Yeah, because you have growlers and as a self-serve kind of as a service kind of system, our people that actually sell the beer have to be licensed for it. I don't think if I recall, it's not a lot more for the licensing to be able to pour. But if you are going to pour it, everybody that does pour has to be licensed on that. And I know in our stores, all of our management team is licensed to do pours, and then we always try to make sure in every shift that there's somebody that can do the pouring of beer, because believe it or not, our sales are actually very strong, and they've stayed really strong. So there's been times when we don't have someone that can pour. We have to turn customers away just because even though we're on Indian country land, it doesn't mean we can still do those kind of things. Yeah.
Sure. And when it comes to buying decisions, so I know in our coolers before we depend on the distributors, right? The distributors, all right, here's your shelves, and they pretty much decide what's going to go in there. We can have a conversation, but they're making a lot of the decisions. Now, John, I thought brought up an excellent point that's worth noting if you're considering this. You want to own those handles. You want to control them. You do not want to yield them to your distributor. Your distributor can be a very important partner, but with that said, can you speak to how you manage your handles? How does a beer get on a handle for you?
Yeah, so that's one thing for us is we don't have anything specifically dedicated to vendors. In the very beginning, we tried to split it up a little bit evenly because we had 12 taps, kind of 6 and 6, or just to be a little bit fair with the vendors. But it got to the point where our only kind of caveat to putting anything on the taps for us was we wanted stuff that's not in the doors. We want stuff that you can't get on the doors and that won't take away from those categories. We wanted for it to be special. So like there's times that we work with private breweries and we bring those in just to get into that hypermarket of your area and their following. We work with those kind of guys, and we try to work with stuff with that we can't get into it. And our store manager and our ordering directors and the guys that do our inventory control are the ones that kind of make sure that happens. And it's always kind of cool when you go in there and you see, like, my favorite thing about walking into the growler station is I see all the taps, because they give you all these beer taps for the top of your pours. Man, those things are cool. Yeah. And those actually really help, because people that don't know that we sell growlers, and they walk in and they see that system and they see it and they see the growler station wizard up. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, you do want to kind of showcase it. We talked at the beginning about where do you place the system, the growler, because it is an investment. So you want to make sure it's at a location where it kind of does pop and gets people's attention a little bit. And if we did move forward, and to what Tony was saying, we'll help you through those best practices of even how to buy beer and what beer to buy. We don't get down to the brand level. We have a very good relationship with breweries up in the Pacific Northwest, but we'll say, listen, this is how you should buy. So when you're talking to those distributors, kind of help yourself sound educated in that beer category when you're talking to them, because otherwise they may take you down a path that's going to make them more money, not necessarily you. It's just something that we've seen out there, and again, we'll talk through that when we engage with you guys.
Yeah, especially when you're working with private breweries, they're those guys are smart guys. They want to know what you're selling. They want to know kind of where your holes are. They do play to trends, and right now cider's really hot, especially on tap. We actually sell quite a bit of ciders, which is a surprise to me when I started looking at the actual sales numbers. But they want to know like where they fit in. So if they're an IPA driven, if they're blonde driven, Pilsner, porter, or cider.
Yeah, they're a wealth of knowledge for sure.
Yeah, but that's something to think about when you're actually buying and doing taps.
So if you're out there and you're thinking, well, maybe I'll start exploring the issue and start doing some research. Do the research. Go out and buy a growler and check out what that experience is. This system, I believe, is in most of the Total lines.
Yeah.
So go to your local tavern, get a growler. Go to Total Wines and check out that system. It's a very different experience. They're both good experiences. One may be more efficient than the other.
Total Wine's better.
But you really, what I would say is immerse yourself and learn, because it's not the same as package beer. And there's I don't know if you can tell, but both these guys are beer guys, and you just see how excited they get when they start talking about the beer. It's like, I'm not even here. But the philosophy with craft beer is, in a phrase, is rotation nation. So nothing is static. What John talked about, yeah, you may have, well, this is my the two IPA handles. Here's the lager handles. That's what folks are looking for, right? They want to have the types of beer, but what they really get excited about is when that new beer comes from Georgetown that they normally can't get, or there's something coming up from Oregon that they heard about or they read about. That's the excitement that you're creating inside your store.
It is, and I'm glad you brought that up. It's something I forgot to mention in that brief when I was commenting on what kind of beers. Is when you're buying the beers, again, we'll talk to you through this, but there's a quick 30,000 foot. When you're buying beers, the beers you want to put on tap are the beers that are not available in package. So if they're available in package, they'll either do the math real quick and say, I can just get it in a 6-pack of it rather than a growler. And but it's the beer that should be on there. It's to what you said. Maybe it's a hot beer that's coming out that you can only get at the local tavern sitting in order a 16 ounce. Now I can get it in a 64 ounce growler and bring it home with me. You know, that's where you'll get the attention. So again, that's all part of our process with you, is educating you on those buy practices. But that's just to add on to your point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Tony, is there anything you want to add that you would have, if someone is thinking about any sort of warnings?
Yeah, the only warning I think is make sure you have enough actual physical growlers. You know, I think like if you're going to sell growlers and get into this kind of business, not everyone has a growler and brings it for refills. You need to have them, because we've ran our distributors out. We've had to get our own printed and worked out. Like if that to me is like the only kind of cautionary. You can be as prepared as you want, have all the beers on tap, but if you don't have the physical growlers, that's something you need to. And there's a great margin. There's like 60% margins in growlers.
Yeah, because you could buy your growler for, at least on our pricing, it's $2.19 a growler with the cap, and then you could sell them for $2.99 just to push them, or people are selling them for $3.99. So you're making money on the glass as well as the liquid for those first time buyers.
And if you make the glass pretty, like attractive, or like a collector's item, they'll hang on to it, and then when they come in, they'll buy another one.
That's why I brand that growler with Nisqually Markets, so people have it in their house, they see it. Whoa, you got a growler at Nisqually Markets? I didn't know they did that. And that again, it's just you want to keep them talking outside of the store, and whatever way you can do that. You know, in my world, I'll tell you how to do it. In other worlds, I'm sure they've got it figured out, but we help you with that process, and if executed properly, it pays off for you folks.
I'm glad you brought up glass, because that for us, that was an unforeseen problem, because the more glass you buy, the cheaper it is. But the more glass you buy, they come in these cases on pallets. Who here has too much storage at their stores? Raise your hand. Okay, so you see the problem right away. So that's something that you're going to have to consider. We're fortunate enough we have an off-site warehouse, so we kind of buy big and lower even get better margins on our glass. But remember, there's two sizes too, and you want to have those two sizes. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So
like, what's the relative?
To that point. So 64 ounce is the most popular by far. From a price point standpoint, 32 ounce is a little more eye appealing, because obviously it's going to be less in price. It doesn't hurt the wallet as much, so it's a little more attractive from that standpoint. But the insurgence of growlers has really moved the shift of growlers to 64 ounce growlers, and then offer the 32 ounce growler can. What we have seen in companies, I think I was talking to you earlier, is companies that introduced growler after they had our growler system in. They sold more beer overall, but they did ding the growler sales a little bit. But the overall sales was higher in beer than it was prior to introducing the growler. So what we have seen, to your point, is the 32 ounce growler has kind of gone by the wayside for those folks that have brought in the can 32 ounce.
There's another issue not related to equipment or the staff. So in Indian country, in general, our health department is the Indian Health Services, and our inspector was not familiar with it, and so she was asking questions because she wants to protect the public, as we do. Well, what if someone brings in a growler and they had gasoline in it? Like,
Yeah,
That's pretty
this
dumb.
is going to sound weird. So when we brought this idea up we deal with like Target and Walmart and stuff, and they kind of looked at me like I had three heads. I said, listen, the only way to get around it and remove the liability from you folks is once you take that growler and you wash it, that liability transfers to you right away. Take the growler. It sounds crazy. Smell and look test. You take the growler, just kind of waft it a little bit. If it's bad, you're going to smell it. You don't even need to bring it close to your nose. You'll smell it. And then just look inside. And if there's something funky in there, you're not. I know people get worried, and this is where like the bigger guys were worried about, and you guys are worried about offending your customers. You're not going to offend them. They're going to get it if you say, hey, listen, I can't fill this growler. There's some stuff floating in it. They're going to get it right away. But just give them a new growler, or however you want to handle that situation. That's dependent on you guys. But certainly, quick sniff, take a look, and then if there's something funky or looks funky, give that back to that customer and start new.
So my point with the our Indian Health Service inspector was, we went where your product was, and we sent her there. We took pictures, we sent it to her, we invited her, and we took her to Total Line so she could see that it was out there already, and we weren't inventing something new, because they have a responsibility and accountability to protecting the public. So just keep that in mind, that there is education around the program.
Absolutely, yep.
So I think we'll open up hang on.
One more thing to add. I just wanted to put all this. So we gave you all this information about growlers. We're telling you it's a great idea, but I just wanted to put it like to scale a little bit. I'll talk about a little bit about what Nisqually Market does in the sales category for it. Just so you know it, like for us, it was big to make sure. Not only was it cool, we wanted to make sure it was value-added product that we're adding to our sales. And I would say that everyone in here probably agrees the beer category is probably one of your biggest categories you have in your store outside of tobacco and fuel. So I did a little research since we've been open. And I was kind of intrigued by the numbers because, I know we're doing well. I kind of don't follow it that closely, but I did a big dig into it when I knew I was coming here and I was going to have to talk in front of all you guys. And I wanted to share, so when I broke down our sales in our beer category and how all the categories are broken down and come to find out, like almost 12% of our sales comes from our growler station, which to me is huge in a two-year time period. And then I started to think about, I wonder how many growlers that we're actually selling. So we're selling about, I think in the 2 years, we sold somewhere around 15,000 growlers. And then I took that number. All right, I've sold 15,000 growlers. I know you can get about 15 growlers per keg. So I was like, so we're selling about 1,000 kegs in 2 years. That's 500 a year. That's pretty good. And then I looked at it, and then we're doing about, I think just over 9 kegs a week is what we're selling through. And I said, that seems like a decent number. So I wanted to benchmark it. So I did it to the national average of how many bars in the country. What's the national average of a small bar? And they're selling 20 with less taps. So to me, I was like, we're a convenience store. People aren't hanging out there drinking beer. They're just filling and going. So I feel like that's a good number. Yeah. That's a good number. Then I wanted to dig in a little bit more. So I said, how many growlers? Because our sales shows how many growlers we sell, but it kind of doesn't differentiate that good on like the ones that we fill and ones people that bring in. That we've sold about, I'll say like 4,500 growlers.
They're glass.
Glass by themselves. So that's an actual great market in itself right there. Then I started thinking like we have the same issues with storage. Those boxes of growlers come in 6, and you have to buy them by 144 cases. So we're selling thousands of cases of growlers. So it was pretty intriguing. So if it's something that you wanted to add or something you're trying to build, it's definitely a great avenue. And I wanted to make sure that like it's not just something where I'm not trying to sell any of their stuff, because I went to all the vendors when I was trying to do something. We just landed on them because they fit what we were trying to do the best. And so it's a great source of revenue. We've made a ton of money. It did an ROI within a year. For us, so it was pretty quick.
And not to get into your business, but from our standpoint and talking to our C-store partners, your package margin is 18 to 20%. out there from what we've seen. And then you can sell and be competitive at 40% margin. So you point to, and I don't know what your margins are, but you point to a 12% share of growlers in your business. That's 12% of share at whatever, not Nisqually, but at a 40% margin. Which if 12% share at a 18% margin is a lot different for the package side. So it's real money at the end of the day if you put some effort and some manpower into it, for sure. It pays off.
Well, we're getting to, I think we are at the end of our hour. Does anyone have a burning question out there? Out there? Oh. Yep.
So we refer to those. Yep, it's a great question that pops up all the time. We refer to them as plug and play. So everything's self-contained within that refrigerator box that you saw that slide, and we just need some plugs, and that's it. And you unplug it, and you can move it. So some people they'll move it to the front of a store during football Sunday, and then move it back to place.
That's what we have. It's installed in a permanent place, but everything is self-contained underneath. The limitation is that we can only get a couple of full kegs, so we have the smaller ones for our variety. But it works for us, and if you know anyone who's ever worked in a bar, those bar lines, so the kegs are 30 feet, sometimes longer away. Well, those lines need to be cleaned regularly, and they have to be cleaned correctly. So the best bars and taverns know how to do it on a regular schedule, and do it well. Now, I don't want to embarrass anyone. Now think about maintenance at your stores. Now you have something that people are going to put in their body in these long lines because things can grow in them and are unhealthy. So we chose, instead of having these lines going even 12 feet, we were more comfortable having it self-contained and very easy to keep a safe environment for the lines.
And for peace of mind to get on.
Now you got me talking about the lines.
I know, it worked. We actually can handle line cleaning for you guys, so we can get into a schedule where our guys will actually come over and clean your lines for you and really, just take it off your hands. But to your point, yes, we can be as mobile as you need us to be. Yes, sir. No, you if it's a self-contained, it's about I think it's about 18 inches at the most, based on it literally is right under that thing, and it goes right into that system, right into that manifold. So I'm glad you brought that up. So on this system, it's a counter pressure system. So what you do is,
Frank, you had to ask a question about the lines.
Thanks for asking that. Thanks for bringing that up, Frank. So at the end of your pour, what you do is it fills, it's done. You keep your beer line open, and you turn this off, and then you open this up, and it actually pushes CO2 all the way through those lines and all the way back into that bottle and cleans that line out. So for your next pour, your line is a clean line. There's no beer sitting in this residual line. The beer from the keg goes to the back of this, it goes into this manifold. So it goes to each one of these fittings right here. And then it stops, and then when you open this fitting up, that opens that line up into this. So your beer that's in the line is from that manifold to this here, and it's cleaned out after every single pour when you do a CO2 purge. The purge goes right into the bottle.
Frank, I'll say this.
It's about an ounce of beer will get pushed right out and put right into your bottle.
So this is like magic. Our customers love just watching it fill. And I'll leave it at that. So I think we're going to, John, wrap it. Can I invite James to come up and
sorry. Next one. Thank you all again.
Yeah.
Did you have a question?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and I can, you can, when I'm packing up, you can grab me if you want a card or whatever. Katie has all my information for sure. I'm happy to send you that deck. I also have videos for filling this and for filling that I can share with you guys. And we're happy to have discussions. No questions are dumb questions, so just let me know. I got to pack this stuff up, so I'm around and I'll take care of that.
Yeah, and anyone also, I think everyone knows, Nisqually's pretty open book. If you wanted to come visit the stores, and we can walk you through everything we're doing and show you the whole system and how it works. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Tony, are you managing this category yourself, or are you training the managers to manage that category?
We train the managers to manage the category.
I'm beginning to wonder what Tony does anymore. I thought he did everything, but he admitted
I train the trainers.
Leave Tony alone. He's selling a lot of beer.
he's doing something right.